Hey guys, and welcome back to another Cross Tactical Airsoft Battle Minute. My name is Ryan Brown. I'm the owner of Cross Tactical Airsoft. Again, guys, welcome back. This is Season 2, Episode number 20 of the Cross Tactical Airsoft Battle Minute. Tonight we're going to be discussing bladed weapons, and it should be a good conversation. We're going to wait here for just a second, let some more folks get online here. We want to talk to you guys, so we're going to present some information. And then if we're presenting some information and you have something to say, we want to hear from you. So make sure that you drop questions. If you don't know how this works, drop your questions in the comments below. If you have some kind of comment to say, drop it in there too. We want to hear from you. So guys, first off, I know it seems kind of funny that I'm wearing a battle shirt tonight, but the mosquitoes were eating me up. So again, out here at the range, and we're trying to get some stuff done and get ready for this. But guys, we've got a big announcement coming for you guys in September. So not too long from now, we'll have an announcement coming. It may be next week, or it may be the following week. And guys, okay, I hope. But next week or the following week, we'll have an announcement. We'll have an announcement for you guys. We'll have an announcement for you guys within the next 2 weeks for something about coming up for Cross Tactical. We're excited for it, so let's get into the Cross Tactical Airsoft Battle Minute, Season 2, Episode number 20. Tonight we're going to discuss bladed weapons. So, what do you do when a player is too close for this? Yeah, you can walk up and tap the person and call melee. At least at our field, I know every field is different, and that is fine. But if you're too close for this, you can walk up and tap the person and yell melee, and they're dead. But that's not all that fun. And so, what are the other options you have? You've got bladed weapons, and there are people out there, I know, somebody's going to mention the fact that there are people out there that carry these at every event. I get that, I really do. You know, Bob the Axeman, he's got in his name, he carries an axe, and he carries a big yellow foam Nerf axe. Guys, I get it. There are people that carry all sorts of different bladed weapons. I use them. As you can tell, I've carried this one for about 2.5 years, but I've carried this this knife for about 2.5 years, and it worked pretty well until we were shooting some pictures for the advertising the other day, and then it finally gave way after 2.5 years. But it's just a plastic knife, so it's nothing all that special, but it is, you know, it is something. So, you know, you have to remember, and guys, I apologize, our internet's been really sketchy lately, so we may have to keep resuming the videos, and I really apologize. I hope it gets better, but bear with us tonight, okay? So, tonight we're going to talk about bladed weapons, and bladed weapons, I know there's a ton of them, but mainly we're going to focus on knives, we're going to focus on swords, and then axes, okay? And when we talk about it, we don't mean things like that or this, okay? We're not talking about hard metal. We're talking about airsoft bladed weapons. So things that are made out of foam, rubber. Sometimes you can find some plastic ones. You know, they're made out of a ton of different stuff. I actually am ordering rubber knives to replace my plastic one that I've had for about 2.5 years. But we're going to talk some more about these tonight, and we're going to discuss a little bit about how to use them. And again, guys, every field has different rules when it comes to bladed weapons and melee kills and that sort of thing. So always check with your fields whether they allow it, and how do you have to do it if you're going to, you know, use a weapon or do a melee kill. Because again, most of the times with most of your fields, you're going to have what we call a bang bang rule, or a minimum engagement distance, or an MED, and that basically is just saying if I get within 6 feet of you, I can't just walk up and shoot you, okay? So what I have to do is I either have to go bang bang, or I have to have a close-in weapon that I can do something to you with, whether that's just walk up and touch you or whatever it may be. But always check with your field. They may allow you to, they may not allow you to touch other players. They may allow you to kill players with other kinds of weapons. They may not allow that. So always check with your with your fields. All right, so let's talk about knives. They're an easy and safe way to get a kill when the players are too close or you just want to be silent, okay? And that means that, you know, if you take one of these and, you know, you can hear that from quite a ways away. So if you're hiding, if you're a sniper and you're all gillied up like we discussed last week, you're laying in the bushes and somebody walks right in front of you and you literally could reach out and touch them, I would probably be more apt to pull my knife and reach out there and touch them and just call melee. At our field, if you're within 6 feet and you can walk up and touch another player, you can walk up and touch them and call melee and they're killed. Again, they change at every event, they change at every field, so you kind of have to pay attention to those things, okay? But knives are fun. They're a great way to add to your loadout. If you're running, you know, any kind of kit, if you're running a specific type of kit, or if you're running a specific loadout, you know, knives are cool ways to do that. You can add these sabers. They'll even mount to the end of your rifles and stuff like that. I know some of them you can get are just like these. They're just plastic. You have to be careful. These can be kind of dangerous. If you're poking somebody, they're actually sharp, you know, to poke or stab somebody. But if you just walk up and tap somebody, it's not going to hurt them. But the rubber knives or the foam ones, those I have not seen a single problem with. You know, you can get those bright orange ones at just about any dollar store. You can take some spray paint them, and man, you're good to go. Okay, but you know, the knives, they're fun. They give you a really neat loadout addition. They give you some really neat ways to create kills on enemy players that aren't necessarily just shooting them, okay? I like the knives. I think they're really neat. I think they're a really, really, really great addition, and I think other players should get into them. Now, a couple of things you have to be careful with knives is you have to try to figure out where to put them on your kit. If you're running around with a, you know, a full loadout, plate carrier and stuff like that, you may be kind of hard up because you might be, you know, fighting for some room, okay? So you obviously you don't want to put it in the way of where your primary or secondary weapon's going to be. You certainly don't want it in the way of your grenades or your radios or whatever your comms are. But if you take and you're using knives, make sure you've got it in a good position that's not going to get in the way. All right. And then you also have swords. And swords, for me, I think swords are a really great idea. I think swords are a really, really great idea. I think they're a wonderful way to kind of keep that fight going on even when you can't shoot somebody. I think they're really neat. I've seen a lot of really cool videos with guys running swords. And again, I think they're a neat and a really, really creative way to get kills in. There is a guy on YouTube, and I'll see if I can find the video and I'll drop it in the comments below. But there is a kid who actually goes on like a 20-person streak killing people with a foam sword. And so, man, if you can get a foam or rubber sword, get out there and go to town, man. I think they're a really great and quiet way with a longer reach than a knife. You know, I love the knife when I'm running my ghillie or I'm a sniper or something like that, and I get set up on a great position. Sometimes I'll run my knife, my pistol, and a bolt-action rifle. Sometimes I'll take a semi-automatic rifle, a pistol, and a knife. And if I can get a knife kill, I'd much rather do that because it's just a lot more fun. If I can get it with a sword, it gives me a little bit longer reach. I don't have to try to get up and move to get it as far. I can just reach out and tap somebody with it with you know, the longer reach of a sword rather than a knife. And then axes. And guys, I understand there are a ton of these out there, bladed weapons. There's a ton of them out there. You can use anything your field will allow, okay? Always check with your owner or your field refs or your managers and see if they'll allow them. The worst they can do is tell you no, all right? But, you know, axes, They give a user the ability to reach out and basically get somebody. Okay, I built this one. It's made out of just a piece of PVC and a foam head. You can buy the foam swords at most anywhere, Amazon, Walmart, stuff like that. You can find them online, and then you just have to spray them if you don't want them to be bright yellow or bright orange or bright red. But basically, I have not used my Airsoft axe in any of the games lately. I used it once before, and I haven't used it again since, just because it was hard to carry around. It's about 30 inches long, 32 inches long, and the opportunity presents itself once in a while to get somebody, but not often. So you kind of have to balance that. Do I carry it all game? And what do I do with it if I'm not using it? How do I use it? What do I do with it when I'm not using it and I need both hands to operate my weapons or get to multiple weapons? You have to balance those things, and you have to practice with them. I say this all the time. No matter what you're running, you got to practice with them. So again, let's talk a little bit about field rules. For cross-tactical airsoft, you can use plastic or rubber knives, you can use swords, or you can use axes. Now, with that being said, how you use them is, they're limited in their use, because, we don't want somebody out there on the field taking an axe and just baseball swinging into somebody, because yes, it's foam or it's rubber or, whatever it's made out of. When you're swinging that thing, it can still hurt. I mean, you can take one of these little switches and you can whack your arm, and man, it'll welt you up really good and it'll hurt. Okay, we don't want players to walk away hurt. We definitely don't want them to leave injured, but we also do want everybody to have a good time. So, talking about how field rules may limit how or when these weapons can be used. We do have limits to when ours can be used. You cannot take a knife and throw it at somebody, because knives are not a throwing object. It's not a throwing star or something like that. But they have to be used within 6 feet. And again, you have to be able to walk up and basically just touch the person. You can't just walk up there and baseball bat them from, you can't get a piece of pipe that's 12 feet long and stick an axe head on it and start waylaying people from 25 feet away, okay? That doesn't work. At least for cross-tactical, we do have limits on when you can use bladed weapons, when you can't, how they have to be used, because you can't just walk up and literally stab somebody. You just have to walk up and tap them. But tapping at our field, tapping somebody with a bladed weapon is the same as a melee kill. It's counted as a melee kill. And basically what it does, it kills that person, and it lets everybody know that, hey, we got close into these guys. We got really super close, and we were able to effectively get up and maneuver around and get these guys without them being able to see us or get close enough to us to do anything about it. Okay, so again, you have to limit the contact or how you contact somebody. You can't just swing off and hit them, because some of these rubber weapons can really hurt you. The plastic ones, again, if you actually poke somebody, they can hurt them, so you got to be careful with those as well. But they're a lot of fun, and I've been using them for several years while I've played, and I've really enjoyed having them. They work really well. They're a lot of fun. Again, contact with other players. Injuries can occur. You must be careful about hard contacts, especially. Other players, may not like getting smacked by foam and rubber. But again, guys, you kind of have to understand, when you come out to play airsoft, you're getting shot at with a 6mm plastic BB. Getting smacked by a piece of foam probably isn't going to hurt you as bad as getting whacked in the hand or in the knuckle or in the tooth with a solid piece of plastic, okay, traveling at 350, 400 feet per second. So you have to be realistic about what you're getting into, all right? So swinging anything, you really have to exercise caution when you have things like axes and swords where you have a long reach and they've got some weight to them. Because if I'm sitting here and I'm just swinging this thing around and just trying to hit a player, I can break a gun with with even a foam or a rubber sword or an axe, because you have a lot of weight that's being swung around. So there are some dangers to it, and that is why some fields, they absolutely do not allow melee weapons. They basically say if you get within 6 to 10 feet, you just say melee, and that person is dead. I like the challenge of trying to get close enough to you to airsoft murder you without being able to actually inflict harm on you. Okay, sometimes it's really fun to stand right beside a trail in a ghillie suit, all ghillied up, just standing there and watching players one after another just walk right past you, reach out and grab the last one, and pull them into the bushes with you, and you melee kill them, take their intel or any of their cards or any of the equipment that they have, and just let their players keep on walking before they realize their player's not even there anymore. So again, getting those close-in kills is a lot of fun. You have to be careful about it. You can't just go swinging and waylaying and meleeing people all the time, because you can break a gun or other pieces of equipment, and you certainly don't want to damage anybody's equipment or break anything. You certainly do not want to hit someone in the head, okay? This is a huge deal for me, coming from the medical profession and also fire and EMS. We never want to see somebody get hurt doing this, okay? This is a sport, but we never want to see anybody get hurt playing this sport. So anytime you're swinging one of these, you need to be swinging for an arm, a leg, the torso maybe, but you never want to swing for their head or their face, okay? Really easy to break people's noses and stuff like that. You never want to try to swing for their hands, A, because they're already carrying a gun, and if you drop that gun and break it, it can be really expensive. But two, you just don't want to hurt somebody. So you have to be careful. Never, ever, ever, no matter if you're using one of these plastic knives or a rubber knife or a foam knife or a foam sword or a rubber sword or a rubber or foam axe, do not swing for their head, okay? At our field, if you hit somebody in the head, you're going to be in trouble because you were swinging for their head, okay? You need to try to go what I always consider is from like the nipples down, okay? So if you hit them in the chest and below, you're fine. If you hit them in the chest and above, you might be in some trouble depending on what you were swinging or how you were swinging. So be very, very careful, because you can do some damage to somebody if you hit them in the head with something that has any kind of heft to it, okay? Oftentimes, other players can be knocked off balance, and that's a danger because, you know, I've seen it at a game where we were fighting up a hillside, and a guy had an axe and whacked a kid, and it was a solid hit. He hit him right in the stomach. It was a great, solid melee. This kid was laid up on the top of the hill. We were fighting up the hill, and when we got to the top, this kid popped up and whacked my buddy right in the gut with a foam axe. It was a Nerf axe. Well, it knocked him back down the hill, and he rolled a couple of times. He was not injured, but again, it's very, very, very worrying when you knock a player down and they roll 30 feet down a hill, okay? So you want to be careful. You want to be really super careful about it. If you knock a player down and knock them off balance, you can do damage. You can make them drop their gun, and some of these guns are really expensive. So again, be really careful in these weapons and how they're used, okay? You also have to remember, just because you're using a blade, it doesn't mean that another player that they're going to use one too, okay? You have to remember that if I pick up my knife and I pull it out, you know, I pull it out of the sheath and I go to stab you with it, you don't just go bang bang, you're dead, okay? Just because like at our field, we have the bang bang rule and we have melee rules in place. If I want to pull out a blade and tap you with it, I can. But that doesn't mean you can't wait until I get within 2 or 3 feet of you and go bang bang and I'm dead, okay? The rules are still the rules, they still apply. Basically what it means is, for me as a bladed player, I've got to work harder to get closer to you without you noticing me. And most of the time I'm going to try to do that if I can come up behind you, okay? But keep in mind, just because I pull my knife out and I start running up there to go up behind you and tap you with it, you can still just turn around and go bang bang and I'm still dead. If I don't yell bang bang first, then you got me, okay? You got to draw me, you played better than I did, and you got me. I was trying a very, I guess, crazy move, and it didn't work. So keep that in mind. Just because you're playing a bladed weapon game doesn't mean that somebody else isn't, and they can pull their guns out. If you play at a field that has a minimum zero minimum engagement distance, meaning they can shoot you at any distance, remember, as you're sneaking up, with your knife, as you're sneaking up behind the guy, he may just turn around and go bang, bang, and shoot you. And if he does, you're dead, okay? You were trying to be very ballsy, you were trying to be very brave, and try to be a little gutsy, and it may not work out. So keep those in mind when you go to use your bladed weapons. You need to make sure you have the absolute drop on your opponent. You need to make sure that you have good camouflage, concealment, and cover while you try to make those moves, okay? So just remember, just because you're playing a bladed game, not everybody else is as well, okay? Keep that in mind. Again, we talked about, if I'm carrying this along with me through the field and I need both my hands to operate my weapon, then I'm going to have to find either a shotgun scabbard or a holster or something to stick this in so that I don't have to carry it and I can still use my hands to use my weapons, okay? So if you're planning to carry a weapon like that, think about things like that. I often get players that come out to Cross Tactical Airsoft and want to use our law rockets, and I have no problems allowing players to use our law rockets, but the problem is they use them and then they lay them down and they forget to bring them back to me. Well, if you did that, you lost your deposit on those if you're using them. So if you bring them back, you'll get your deposit back. So you always want to make sure that you have those, any weapons that you're using, you always want to make sure you have a way to carry that and hold on to it, make sure it doesn't get damaged, make sure that you can carry it with you the entire game, and make sure that you know how to use it. Some guys that we've had show up and they're like, yeah, I know how to use this, I know how to do it, I know how it works. Okay, that's great, I'm glad that you do, I still want to show you. Because I don't want somebody to get out there and, be using my axe and just absolutely karate chop me right in the kneecaps with a hard plastic piece of pipe, okay? I really would not be happy if somebody hit me right in the kneecaps with a hard piece of plastic pipe. So for me, if I'm talking to players, I always tell them, look, these weapons, they're a lot of fun, they're a big challenge, and I encourage everybody to try to use one. But if you're going to use it, make sure that you understand all you can do is walk up and tap somebody, okay? It doesn't mean that if you walk up and just absolutely, crack them in the back, that you're not going to start a fight on the field, and we don't want that, okay? We won't have that. So make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing. Make sure you're not going to injure anybody, and ultimately just make sure you have a lot of fun. I know that if somebody gets the drop on me to where I get close enough that they can melee kill me or they can kill me with a bladed weapon, they have earned that. And I'll give it to them every time. If they're within 6 feet of me and I didn't know they were there, they earned that one every time. I'll give them the bang bang rule, I'll give them a melee, I'll give them a tap, whatever, because they earned that. It's hard to get that close to me, and many of our admins are this way because we've all served in the military, we've all worked, we've all done this stuff before, so we're kind of aware. And if you get that close to us, it means you did something very well. So if you did, you got us, okay? And we're not going to yell and scream and complain about it because you just plain outmaneuvered and out-tacticked us, okay? So we give that to you, and we even applaud you for it because, man, that takes some doing to do. So if you're going to use weapons, bladed weapons, hey, we're all about those. At Cross Tactical, we love them. We think they're fun. We think they're really cool. We do have some rules that you have to abide by. They're nothing big, nothing huge, but you do have to kind of abide by them. So make sure that you're paying attention to those. And then also, make sure that you're paying attention so that when you're using certain weapons, make sure that you know if there's a quote minimum engagement distance, or know if you can or can't use it, where you can and can't use it. I know some fields, they do have rules against using bladed weapons like inside of buildings or in certain areas, and that's fine. We're not telling you to just go out and use them. Again, talk to your local field, see what the rules are about them. Most of them will have them posted somewhere. If they don't have them posted, ask. It's just like anything else. Pyrotechnics on some fields are becoming outlawed or abandoned because fire danger and other dangers. Bladed weapons, they have caused fights in the past because somebody walks up and smacked somebody else, and those have caused problems in the past. And so a lot of fields have gone away from that. Some fields don't even participate anymore in the melee, meaning that I can't, if I'm standing right here, I can't run up to you and get 3 feet from you and be like, melee, and tag you, okay? I cannot, at some fields, I can't tag or touch another player. At our field, we still allow it. We still encourage it. We want you to practice your tactics. We want you to get close enough to other players to be able to tag them or to touch them with a bladed weapon or get your close-in melee kills, okay? Because again, we think that if you are able to maneuver around and get close enough to us, you've earned that. But again, not all fields share our same enthusiasm. So, you know, you've got to always talk to them, ask them what they allow, ask them what they don't allow, and make sure you're following their rules as well, okay? We don't want to get anybody in trouble. We certainly don't want anybody to get in trouble. So make sure you check with your field before you're using any bladed weapons. And again, make sure that you have a way to carry it around all day, because, you know, it can be hard, and especially if you're carrying around one of the big foam Nerf swords that are bright yellow. They are hard to hide with. And I see a lot of guys that come out to our field that have different things that are brightly colored, and it is very, very difficult to hide one of those, because when you're hiding in the sea of green, as you can see right here, you know, it's a sea of green and tans and browns, and then you see this bright yellow thing. It's really hard to hide those. Yes, you can paint them. Yes, you can kind of hide them or camouflage them up. You can use face paints. You can use all kinds of stuff. But A, make sure that you're not painting it anything that'll get transferred to somebody else, because you don't want to paint their equipment. But two, you just have to be careful, because if you're carrying it around all day, even this thing that doesn't hardly weigh anything at all, you know, it's maybe 5-6 ounces. But if I'm carrying this thing around all day, yeah, it gets heavy, because it's just something that you have to carry around, hold on to, tie a piece of paracord around, wrap it around you. It gets in the way. It gets in the way of your gun manipulations. You know, it gets to be kind of a pain. So make sure that you keep those in mind when you're running those things, okay? And then one more thing that we talked about, and somebody actually messaged me and wanted me to add this, and I thought it was a good idea to add this because there is something out there made by a company called Aerogun. It's called the Airsoft bow, manufactured by Aerogun. And basically what it is a paintball system that mounts to the front of a bow, and you can put it on any bow and pull it back, and it shoots an airsoft BB out of it, okay? That's another series of these weapons. They're not firearms. They're not guns or replicas. It's a bow. So even though it doesn't fall into bladed weapons, I want to mention it tonight because, again, somebody messaged it over to me, and it is true that would fall into these alternate weapons. And tonight, that's kind of what we focused on. Yes, we focused mainly on bladed weapons, but there are ulterior weapons as well. Grenades, mines, the airsoft bow, there's crossbows, there's all kinds of stuff. So, guys, we want you to think outside the box. We always welcome you to bring stuff up to our field, and anytime we have games, you can bring it up to us and ask. I'm at most of the games, but you can ask any of our admin staff if those particular items are allowed, and they'll let you know whether they are or not. Okay. Again, it's always important to check with your local field about their rules and their reasonings behind them. So, guys, as we normally do, as we wrap up, we want to ask a couple of questions and see what you have to say. If you have a comment or a question, drop them in the comments below. If you have something that you want to tell us about on our questions, drop them in there. We want to hear from you. So make sure that you drop those in there, because we enjoy reading all of them every time we get them. So, do you carry any other weapons other than a pistol and a rifle? Have you ever played a game where you've carried knives or other weapons? Have you ever played those before? And if you do, what did you carry? And how well did it work? Were you able to use it? Did it work at all? Did it just at time not present itself? You know, kind of what did you get into? And then number 2, does your field allow weapons that touch other players? And if you play you don't have to name the field of where you're playing at, because we're not out there looking to try to shame a field for not allowing it. Sometimes it's strictly their insurance won't allow it. Some fields can't have buildings more than 10 feet tall because their insurance just won't allow them, or they won't allow their guns to shoot harder than 350 feet per second because the insurance will not allow it. So do you play at a field where they allow weapons that touch another player? Again, at Cross Tactical, we do allow our players to touch other players simply because of our rule sets and how we have them set up, and our insurance does cover us to do that. So number 3, what are the rules that you don't like at your field about bladed weapons, and how do you flex them to make it work? And I don't mean like, if I've got one of these airsoft rubber swords or a foam sword, I'm just going to whack you with it anyway. That's not what I mean, because that's just blatantly outright cheating. Okay, I would never overshoot a player, and I would never recommend that you do not call a hit. And I would also never recommend that if we say, hey, don't use pyro, or don't shoot this person, or don't do this, that you walk up and just do it anyway because you thought it was a better idea. Okay, there's generally a reason why we have those rules that are put in place. Okay, you may not understand why, I get that, but there are rules in why you can't touch other players. There are rules in why you can't use bladed weapons. There's rules why you can't tag, touch, or try to tap another player. Okay, but how do you flex them? Sometimes you can do it. You can, I know guys that have hidden in bushes with a pistol, let somebody get right up on them, and instead of reaching out and just tagging them, they just go bang bang, and they kill him right then, and then they just let the guy keep moving and sit down somewhere else so that his buddies will still come on, and they can get more kills and stay in their same spot. Again, my whole reason for loving the bladed weapons is it's more silent than a pistol, and it's definitely more silent than my rifles. So again, guys, what are the rules at your local field? And if you don't like them, about using bladed weapons, if you don't like them, how do you flex them to make them fit? Or have you tried simply going to the field owners and explaining your ideas? Have you tried to develop new rule sets and present them to them so that they can present them to their insurance companies and allow them to try to make an accurate prediction about will that or will that not work? And then, again, guys, the bladed weapons thing, it's kind of a you love it or you don't. I love it because I think it adds a challenge. I think it's very, very difficult to do sometimes, but I think it's a ton of fun. And I think that sometimes it's really, really worth it just to pull out a knife and try to go after somebody with a pistol and a knife. I think it's fun. Again, at our field, we do not allow, other than our admin staff are allowed to carry like a real blade.